Hey, this is Jamey with Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanism in the cooperative deduction game, Paint the Roses. I just played this for the first time with 3 players last night and had a lot of fun with it. It has some really cool mechanisms that remind me of another game I love that I would recommend if you like Paint the Roses, called the Shipwreck Arcana. In Paint the Roses, players are working together to give clues in a very specific way that I'll mention in a second to help other players guess what cards they have in their hand. So I might have a card that looks like this in hand, and if I have a card like this in hand, all other players are trying to guess that my card is 2 red icons next to each other. And I'm conveying that clue by placing a tile on this board. So there's this board out here that has some tiles on it and each tile has 2 elements. Each tile has a shape and it has a color. So this is a diamond with a purple. It's a purple diamond there. And so there might be a shape out here with a purple diamond. And if I'm trying to get you to guess that I have, say, 2 purples on my hidden card, I might place this tile on my turn next to this purple diamond and put a cube on the tile that I just placed to show you that, information to you. And all other players will also get to place cubes on that tile, a number of cubes equal to the number of matches that they have in relation to that tile. So this is one of my favorite mechanisms of the game, that not only am I trying to deduce what other players have in hand, each player has 1 card in hand, but I am also conveying to other players important information about what I have in hand based on the tile I select and where I place it on the board during my turn. So I get to work kind of both parts of my brain here. I'm deducing what other players have, and I get to feel clever when I place a tile that lets other players guess what I have in hand. Again, that's the part that reminds me specifically of Shipwreck Arcana. And the nice bonus to this is the part that other players also get to place their cubes on the tile I place. Or they don't place their cubes and indicate that there are no matching adjacent tiles based on the tile that I just placed. So not only am I giving information about myself, but I'm also learning information about what the other players may have. The second mechanism I think is really clever in this game, really just a quick one, is that you can see this little score track here. Whenever you complete a card, so say the other players correctly guess that I have 2 reds next to each other, I gain 2 points, or we gain 2 points. I advance on this score track by 2. That in itself is neat, but what's really cool is that we are being chased by, I forget the name of the actual character, the Queen. The Queen is chasing us around this track. And so every turn, she's going to move a little bit or a lot based on whether or not we guessed correctly that turn or not. Because every turn, you have to make a guess about what another player has. So the Queen is going to move either a little bit or a lot, and she is chasing you around this track. You're trying to stay ahead of the Queen to escape the maze by the end of the games. I really like this idea that it's just a nice little thematic touch that puts pressure on the players. It adds a lot of tension to the game. It's the game's timer, but the connection to the theme and the feeling of being chased works really well. However, I'm going to end with my favorite mechanism here. I like all those mechanisms, but I think this is so clever. The game, and I haven't read the rule. Maybe there's a way that the game scales in terms of difficulty on its own. I think there probably are little ways that can do it. But in the midst of the game, it offers different difficulty levels based on the player's choices at any given time. For example, this is an easy card to complete. In this entire deck of cards, the easy deck of cards, there are only color-to-color matches. You can see this in the back of the card. There's only color-to-color. They're not all red to red. Here's one that's pink to pink. Some of them are different. So here's red to purple, red next to purple. I get to choose this card. So when the rest of my teammates correctly guess this card, I get to then choose, do I want another easy card? Am I feeling a little ambitious? Do I want a medium card? Or do I even want a hard card? For the hard cards, they could be color to color, shape to shape, or color to shape like this one. There's a purple next to a heart. And so there's a lot more options in the hard deck. But I love this idea that throughout the game, I get to choose the difficulty based on how clever I'm feeling at that moment, the cards the other players have, how far ahead of the Queen we are, and also just who I am as a player. I might be a player who isn't really comfortable with this style of game, and if that's the case, I can just always choose an easy card. Although you can only have 1 easy card on the table at any given time. Only 1 player can have an easy card, so the game isn't too easy. But I love this option that the difficulty of the game is scaled on an ongoing basis based on the cards that you get to choose, that each player gets to choose when they are replacing a card. You only ever have 1 of these in their hand. So I love this idea of difficulty scaling on an ongoing basis based on what players choose. really, really cool mechanism there that I'd love to see in other cooperative games as well. Rather than this is opposed to having, like, at the beginning of the game, you set the difficulty for all players. This lets players choose difficulty throughout the game, and each player gets to choose the difficulty. So yeah, those are my favorite mechanisms in Paint the Roses. I really enjoyed this cooperative deduction game. I look forward to playing it more. And yeah, and again, if you like it, I also recommend the Shipwreck Arcana. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below of either of these games. Thanks.